What if I told you that in the year 1663, more than 150 years before the first airplane, centuries before electricity, before steam engines, before anything we would recognize as modern technology, a massive glowing oval object appeared in the sky over a remote Russian lake, hovered, partially submerged itself, boiled the water, and then shot away at incredible speed, and that this entire event was written down in real time by a respected Orthodox deacon? This is not folklore. This is not a legend that grew over time. This is one of the strongest, most detailed, and most credible pre-industrial UFO, or more accurately, USO cases ever recorded. Welcome to the 1663 Robo-Zero Lake incident. Today, we're going deep into a case that UFO researchers still point to as a cornerstone of the phenomenon. A case that shows whatever is visiting us has been doing so for a very, very long time. Let's start with the setting. In 1663, the Robo-Zero region in what is now Karelia in northern Russia was a quiet, sparsely populated area of small Orthodox Christian villages. Life here was simple and hard. People lived by seasonal fishing, basic farming, and strict religious observance. There was no electricity, no machinery, no scientific framework to explain strange lights in the sky. Yet the people were not ignorant. Many of the rural clergy, including the deacon who documented what happened, were literate, trained, and trusted by their communities to record important events, births, deaths, disputes, and anything unusual that affected the village. The lake itself was the heart of daily life. It provided food, water, travel routes, and held deep spiritual meaning. It was the boundary between the human world and the vast, mysterious northern forests. So when something extraordinary appeared over that lake, it struck at the very center of the community's existence. The date was August 15th, 1663, around midday. The villagers were gathered for church celebrations connected to religious feast days. That detail is important. It means a large number of people were awake, outside, and in the same area at the same time. The first sign was an unusual brightness in the sky. The deacon described an object that glowed with an intense radiance, brighter than the midday sun. It was oval-shaped. Let that sink in. In 1663, a trained observer described a large, glowing oval craft. He estimated its length at roughly 200 feet, about 60 meters. Even allowing for the approximations of the time, every account agrees it was enormous, luminous, and completely unlike anything known to the people of that era. As the object descended toward the surface of Lake Robo-Zero, it dominated the sky. Then it did something that still stuns researchers today. Its light was so powerful that it pierced through the lake, illuminating the bottom even in the deepest sections. This intense downward beam of light is a detail that appears again and again in modern unidentified submersible object reports, craft that light up the ocean floor before entering or exiting the water. But in 1663, no one had ever heard of such a thing. The villagers reacted with a mixture of fear, awe, and pure confusion. This was a deeply religious community, watching something that moved with controlled, deliberate precision, not like a falling star, not like lightning, not like any natural phenomenon they knew. Then the object partially submerged itself into the lake. Witnesses reported that the water began boiling. The surface churned violently. Waves spread outward, disturbing the shore and throwing nearby fishermen into panic. The idea of water boiling around a craft is another striking parallel with modern military and civilian USO reports. Objects that enter the ocean and appear to superheat the water without any visible propulsion, combustion, or steam engines. After a period of time partially underwater, the craft re-emerged. It continued moving across the lake for a prolonged period. Accounts range from several minutes to over an hour, still glowing brilliantly and still agitating the water. Finally, it rose back into the air, maintained its silent, intense glow, and departed the area at astonishing speed. Silent, controlled, capable of entering and exiting water, emitting light powerful enough to illuminate the lake bottom. All of this in the year 1663. Now let's talk about the witnesses, because the credibility of this case rests heavily on who saw it and how it was recorded. The most important figure is the Orthodox deacon who wrote the account. He was a trained clerical official whose job was to document events accurately. His report of the Robo-Zero incident was not written as a myth, a parable, or a moral lesson. It appears in the same type of records that contained land disputes, weather events, and ordinary church matters. That context is crucial. This was intended as a straightforward, sincere report of something the deacon himself could not explain. Multiple villagers witnessed the event at the same time: men, women, and children. This cross-section of the community makes collective hallucination, or mass hysteria, extremely unlikely, especially in such an isolated rural setting where those concepts were virtually unknown. The people were terrified. Some fled indoors, others dropped to their knees, a few tried to interpret the event as a divine sign. And here is one of the most remarkable details. In a culture where supernatural explanations were common, the deacon did not label the object as an angel, a demon, or a heavenly vision. He simply recorded what he saw: a gigantic, brewing, glowing, oval-shaped craft, interacting with the lake in a way that looked like controlled technology. The immediate effects on the community were profound. The incident became the subject of intense discussion in Robo-Zero and surrounding villages. Some people feared it was a sign of coming punishment from heaven. Others worried that war or plague would follow. The higher Orthodox church hierarchy does not appear to have launched any formal investigation, but local clergy carefully preserved the written account. Some may have viewed it as an omen. There is no record of lasting ecological damage, yet fear caused many villagers to avoid the lake for weeks. Fishing patterns were disrupted. The lake's reputation changed from a life-giving resource to a place where unknown forces had appeared. The psychological impact lasted for generations. Oral histories kept the memory alive, so the event never faded into obscurity. Fast forward to the 20th century. When the Robo-Zero account was translated and published, it immediately captured the attention of historians, ufologists, and even some military analysts. The reason is simple. The characteristics of the sighting, the oval shape, the extreme luminosity, the interaction with water, the ability to hover, and the silent movement, line up strikingly with modern, unidentified submersible object reports. Several factors make this case exceptional. It happened long before aviation, steam power, or electricity existed. It contains detailed physical descriptions that match modern sightings. It was written down at the time, not reconstructed decades or centuries later. There is no evidence of fraud, political motive, or deliberate superstition shaping the record. And crucially, it involves water interaction, a recurring theme in some of the strongest modern USO cases. For researchers who take the phenomenon seriously, the implication is powerful. If craft with these advanced capabilities were observed in the 17th century, then the phenomenon did not begin with the modern era. It existed long before humanity had any technology capable of producing similar effects. That effectively rules out experimental aircraft, balloons, rockets, or any human invention of the time. The Robo-Zero case is also frequently referenced in discussions about non-human intelligence, possibly using Earth's oceans as operational domains. A craft that can enter and exit water without apparent damage or conventional noise matches descriptions given by naval personnel and other witnesses centuries later. This is why the 1663 Robo-Zero Lake incident still matters. It is one of the clearest pieces of historical evidence that UFO and USO phenomena are not a product of the atomic age or the Cold War. They appear to be embedded much deeper in human history, occasionally becoming visible long before we had cameras, radar, or global communication. Modern researchers often call cases like this legacy encounters. They are so old, yet so detailed, that they resist easy dismissal. They demonstrate continuity. Crafts with similar characteristics have been observed centuries apart, by completely different societies, under conditions where the witnesses had no preconceived ideas about flying saucers or alien visitors. In a time when unidentified aerial phenomena are finally being discussed in mainstream political and scientific circles, Robo-Zero stands as a powerful reminder. This mystery is not new. It is ancient. It is repeated. And it may point to a long-term, ongoing presence of something non-human interacting with our planet, particularly with our oceans. The villagers of Robo-Zero in 1663 may not have understood what they were seeing, but they recognized its enormity. The deacon recorded the event carefully so that future generations would know that something remarkable had occurred, something unexplained, powerful, and deeply real. More than 360 years later, that record still challenges our assumptions about technology, about presence, and about contact. It remains one of the earliest, most coherent, and most unsettling demonstrations of capabilities that were, and in many ways still are, beyond what humanity can produce. The blazing oval over Lake Robo-Zero is not just a strange story from a remote Russian village. It is a historical data point that refuses to be ignored. If this case is new to you, I encourage you to look deeper into historical UFO and USO reports. The phenomenon has a much longer timeline than most people realize. Drop a comment and tell me what you think about the Robo-Zero incident. Have you heard of other strong pre-modern cases? Thank you for watching. Stay curious and keep looking up.